Figaro Pho is a show about a little boy that fears the entire world around him, from the basic fear of spiders to the obscure fear of vibrating to pieces. Today, I'm going to go through all 104 episodes and determine whether his fears are perfectly normal or totally obscure. But first, as all of you know, I am currently running for President of the United States of America, and today I have a positive update for the campaign. Ever since it was revealed what Dung did in North Dakota in 1983, his numbers have been plummeting, and now I am back as the projected winner. This is great news for my campaign, but I would assume Dung is getting scared. Speaking of getting scared, Figaro Pho. He is a little boy that is quite literally afraid of everything. He lives in a giant mansion all by himself. Don't exactly know how he came into such wealth, but good for him. This extremely vile and grotesque show originally ran for 26 episodes, each 90 seconds long. Each episode he experiences a new phobia, with every one corresponding to a letter of the alphabet. This first season is simply called Figaro Pho. After the success of it, he got a new show called The Adventures of Figaro Pho. They dropped the whole letter naming convention and made 39 episodes. The episodes were now a whopping 8 minutes long, but every episode was still dedicated to specifically one fear. A few years later, he got yet again another show called The New Adventures of Figaro Pho. Again, 39 episodes at 8 minutes each. However, the show suddenly became less and less about fears and more of just a disgusting kids show. Today, what I'm going to do is look at all of Figaro's fears and establish how rational or obscure they are. It's hard to get an exact total for how many fears he has because of the last season. The first season was just Figaro and his mansion alone. The second season introduced Rivet, his robot dog, which is a total Jimmy Neutron ripoff, and it also made certain other characters a little bit more prominent, like the mailman. However, in the third season, he finally went outside of his mansion and socializes with other kids and adults, which kinda felt like a complete 180 of his character. The episodes were no longer dedicated to a specific fear, and they just had basic plots with other kids and certain things like that. Hence, there weren't really too many specific fears in Season 3, so I'm mainly going to be looking at Seasons 1 and 2, giving us a total of 65 fears. I am now going to categorize them as how normal they are to how completely obscure and unlikely they are. The first category is the totally normal fears that everyone has. I'm going to try and look at the fear at face value, rather than compare it to Figaro's bizarre specific situation. Spiders, probably the most common fear. Cats. I mean, it depends on the cat. I wouldn't really understand a domesticated furball, but if that thing had foam running down its face, I wouldn't like it either. Insects. I wouldn't be scared of a butterfly, but stink bugs, they're nasty. But it could be a lot worse like wasps and stuff like that can actually hurt you, so it makes sense. Shadows. If you're an adult, grow up. But like, he's a kid, so he gets a pass. I don't know of any kids that are actually scared of shadows, but then again, I don't know that many kids. The Great Mole Rat. I would say this is a weird one, and it is if you're actively thinking about it. But if you encountered this, wouldn't you be scared too? Fish. Look, I like to eat them, but I don't think most people would like to touch one. They're nasty and sliming. Just imagine you're at a beach or whatever, and one brushes up against your leg in the water. That's a relatable experience, right? I don't actually know. I haven't been outside, let alone a beach, in like a decade. It's also kind of broad. Sharks are fish. I would be scared of them. And the fish Figaro deals with grows in size as he pleases. So I would also be scared of the mutant fish. Thieves. This is very reasonable. No one wants their stuff stolen. Baldness. I think this crosses everyone's minds once in a while. Don't worry, guys. Baldness comes from your mom's genes. So if she ain't bald, I think you're good. That's probably not how that works. Don't quote me. Clowns. A pretty normal fear as well. Pennywise, Bozo, Krusty, John Wayne Gacy. The 2016 clown scare. Remember that, when people were dressing up as clowns and attacking people for a video? The only clown that doesn't scare me is Ronald McDonald, because I know all he wants is for kids to have a good time at McDonald Land. You know what, if he wants you to eat McDonald's, maybe he doesn't care all that much about you. Elevators. You're probably fine with these, but I have to admit I've gotten kinda scared before when some dude that couldn't have been less than like 800 pounds stepped in with his earthquake steps, and I didn't know if we were going to reenact the opening scene from Speed. Growing old. We all do it. There's no stopping it. The world changes around us. Some of us make videos about nostalgic shows that they remember from their childhood that is growing ever distant. Unfamiliar toilets. I can't stand them. I have never used a public toilet, and I am proud of that. Do you know what could be going on in there? What's on the seat? What if there was a single hair on the seat? You wouldn't question and wonder which part of the body that came from? Or what about if someone doesn't flush? And if you want to argue they are clean, How do you know? Just because they say they are, doesn't mean they are. You really think a 16-year-old that got stuck on mop duty is going to give it his all to make sure the stuff is clean? And what about some hobos going in there that are carrying a brand new disease? You want to be subjected to that? Maybe I have too high of a standard. Being ugly. This is understandable for some. I can't relate, as my good looks are so stunning that women are scared to approach me. At least that's what my mommy tells me. But if you aren't an Adonis like myself, I can sympathize this might be a fear that you have. Disease. Yeah, we all went through a pandemic at this point. I think that gave us a little bit of fear. This also goes hand in hand with his fear of sneezing, also potentially spreading disease. It's understandable. Being alone? Yeah, that can definitely be scary. I think depending where you're at, are you in a forest at night, walking down a street in a bad neighborhood? There's reason to be afraid. But what if you're just chilling in bed alone, eating a bowl of cereal, and watching some TV? I mean, nothing to fear there. Being stared at. All kind of depends on who. If some deranged guy is staring at you, yeah, be scared. If old people are staring at you, well, be less intimidated. Relatives. Yeah, we all have the bad ones. Rejection. It's unfortunate, but at least you attempted whatever you did. Whether it be a job application, asking someone on a date, or whatever, at least you had the opportunity to get rejected. Life advice from Mung. But obviously being afraid to be rejected is quite the common thing. The fear of a rival. Most generally, you should be weary of your rival, because after all, they are your rival for a reason. If the Joker is your rival, be scared. If Darth Vader is your rival, be even more scared. If Dung is your rival, laugh at him. Mad dogs. They are mad for a reason, so I'd probably run. Space aliens. Everyone thinks it would be cool and are so fascinated with aliens, but we don't know if they're friendly or not, and I think that's a pretty fair phobia, and that rounds out the sensible category. Now we're moving into the category of, yeah, no one likes these certain things, but there isn't really much of a reason to be afraid. That's my biggest complaint with the show, besides completely reworking all of Figaro in Season 3. The writers seem to take general dislikes that no one would want to encounter and call them fears, but really, you aren't actively afraid of them and are just in general more of an inconvenience. That's how a majority of the episodes go down. He just doesn't like something rather than being afraid. Maybe I'm just splitting hairs a little bit. He has the fear of bodily odors and a separate fear of foul odors. They both go hand in hand. No one likes them. You probably avoid them, but no one is scared of them. If you have bodily odors, bathe. Vomiting. Is anyone scared of it? No. Does anyone want to do it? I mean, if you do, you might want to get that checked out. He has a fear of meteors and meteorites. School taught me the difference, but really, all I see is just a couple different letters. A little existential. They have like a 0.000000001% chance of one coming even slightly near Earth. Like, I don't think you need to fear that. Boredom. No one likes it, but do people realize they have nothing to do, get bored, and then just scream in fear? Mosquitoes. We already discussed insects as a general term, but do people actively fear mosquitoes? Like staying inside so there isn't a chance you can get bit. Hunger. Of course, no one likes to be hungry, but again, do you start to get anxious when you feel your tummy rumble? Being weak. It's kind of a fear you can change. Build some muscle and then you will no longer be weak. Work. This one is very subjective. Depends on the work. Chores? No, that's not justifiable. Desk job? No. Labor jobs? No. You may not like it, but there's no need to be scared of it. However, if your job is like in an active war zone, I think it's a bit more fair to be scared of that than typing in an Excel spreadsheet. Losing. Also subjective. It depends on what you lose, but in general, you probably don't want to lose something rather than being actively scared you're going to lose it. Speed. Going 100 miles an hour down the highway, yeah, reason to be scared. A waiter bringing your food out quickly, no, that's not bad. Shrinking. I can understand how a few things shrinking could be alarming. Ahem. But like shrinking the pounds on your body is generally a good thing. Shrinking your workload, that's good. I can think of more good outcomes with things shrinking than I can bad. And that rounds out this category. The third category is basically no one's afraid of these things, and if you are, you shouldn't be. Dancing, skin, old people, sleep, jelly, dust, vegetables, clouds, beards, poop, telephones, cosmos, what's under the bed? What are you, 3 years old? Dryness, hiccups. Here's the technical phobia term for hiccups. Just wanted to share it because it is such a crazy word. I'm not going to attempt saying that. Cacti, chickens, sleepwalking, and shopping carts. I Feel like these don't really need an explanation? If you disagree, I'd love to hear why. And the final category is just like the last one, but they are so obscure they shouldn't even have a technical name. Wood. What is a tree going to do? Wood doesn't move. Trees can fall, but specifically, wood can't do anything to you. Baths. If you're scared of bathing, you're hurting everyone else around you. Don't be that guy. Especially in a school or at work or something, there's other people that have to smell you. True story. There were some people in my school that took bi-yearly showers and just walked around with smog surrounding them. Everything. How could you function if you had this? Wouldn't this mean you're afraid of air, afraid of earth, afraid of thinking? This doesn't exist. Okay, come on. I don't think I'm being insensitive by saying this probably doesn't exist. Duplication. If we're talking about a clone of yourself, impossible. Or we could be talking about manufactured products. They are all going to be identical to each other, but why are you scared of that? Also, you're not, so don't answer that. The fear of the unknown thing. This is so vague and so broad. I'm not going to spend much time on it, but it could literally mean anything. The unknown thing Figaro is afraid of looks like a metal Hershey Kiss that is actually a music box. I do like the actual phobia name though, obscurophobia. Vibrating to pieces. How can this happen? Are you made of Lego? I don't think so. So unless you're Emmett from the Lego movie, get out of here with this one. Becoming a vampire. Same thing. This factually cannot happen. Vampires are fictional. Or are they? Being stared at by a duck. Being stared at is one thing, but by a duck shouldn't cause any alarm. They can't really do anything to you. They don't hunt humans. If this was like a fish's fear, it would get a pass, but humans shouldn't be afraid. Also, how common is this fear to actually have its own name? And finally, probably the most obscure one on this list, dancing rabbits. They don't dance. Oh god, they do. With that, the list is over. But I'm not done talking. It's time to talk about the show. A highly requested video was the lore of Figaro Pho, but after watching all 3 shows, I can confidently say there is close to none. The first 2 seasons were non sequiturs with no real continuity. In the 3rd season, they completely changed the dynamic of the show and introduced some characters and gave past characters more screen time. But this single season doesn't give enough of anything to make an actual video. So I made this instead, and I think this is better, because what little lore of Figaro Pho there is, it's boring. I have to also give this show props. It looks terrible in a good way and has an awesome aesthetic and art style. It is also unabashedly disgusting. The humor is so nasty. Puking in an umbrella and then opening the umbrella over yourself. Putting toenails in coffee and just super grotesque details and character designs. But I'm not complaining. It makes this show super unique and cool. The first season is perfect. 26 90-second episodes. It gets the point across quickly and had some very unique fears. The second season, increasing the runtime to 8 minutes, really hurt the show. It got rid of the ability to have some really wacky fears because now you have to have 8 minutes worth of content, and some of the crazier ones just don't have that many jokes that could be made. The third season took Figaro Pho and made him not Figaro Pho. The stories still had the grotesque spin on them, but they were no longer about a boy who's deathly afraid of everything and just kind of turned him into a relatively timid boy. I'm not gonna sit and gripe because that's not what this video is about, but it's a complete downgrade of what Figaro Pho once was, and it's quite unfortunate. This was a pretty cool show, even as gross and nightmare-inducing as it was. It was incredibly original. So what do you think of the fears? Do you share any of Figaro's more obscure fears? Let me know in the comments. Remember, I'm running for president, and the way to vote for me is by subscribing. We gotta beat my opponent Dung this November. Anyone can vote. Non-Americans, people under 18, we all have to do our part and subscribe. My presidency will bring more videos like this one about random obscure shows and other amazing content. Subscribe, and thanks for watching.